Hi, I'm Justin Klee. I'm one of the two co-CEOs and co-founders at Amylyx Pharmaceuticals. We're focused in neurodegenerative diseases, particularly ALS, and we're really honored to get to be part of the events today.
And hi, I'm Josh. I'm the other co-CEO and co-founder at Amylyx. This was just a wonderful day, a wonderful event, talking about brain science at the UN General Assembly. And I really feel we're in a golden era of brain science. There are more treatments coming out. There are more biomarkers. There are new approaches that are coming out every day. And I think what we heard throughout all the panels today is just an incredible optimism that we're going to see tremendous progress in the coming years.
It's so important that we have every stakeholder come together to talk about brain health and disease and how we're going to help people, because these are diseases that affect everyone, no matter where you are in the world. No matter where you come from, we're at a time of unprecedented innovation. We have new treatments, we have new ways of diagnosing the diseases, we have the recognition of the suffering that these diseases cause, not just for people living with them, but for their families and their communities as well. So I think now is the time to start talking about how do we solve these global issues, not just on the innovation side, but on the access side. If these are diseases that affect people everywhere in the world, then we need to find ways to enhance care, enhance treatment, enhance awareness for people all around the world. But having such a group as we have here today makes us so optimistic that we're on the path to doing that.
I think it really has struck us just how global these diseases are. We often, coming from the United States, it's easy to think within our own borders, but pretty quickly at the event today, you hear about neurodegenerative diseases in Malaysia, in Africa, in Latin America, all around the world. People are affected by these diseases, and many, many groups are working towards finding solutions. So I think it's a very exciting time, really amazing to see all the different groups come together, and amazing even just for brain health and neuro to be on the agenda. Classically, when we started in ALS, neuro was viewed as a space where, nothing worked, there was no hope. And I think that's really changed. And, it's now attracted the interest of policymakers, not only for neurodegenerative disease, but also for mental health at this event. Just incredible consortium coming together to try to tackle these global issues.
And I think what so resonated with me as well, and I think this is the beauty of the UN General Assembly, is how global these diseases are, and also everything that's shared across these diseases. The challenges that we're facing in ALS are very similar to the challenges that people are facing in Alzheimer's disease, in Parkinson's disease, in stroke, in bipolar, schizophrenia. And so I think having such a diverse group here today from all different backgrounds, from all different places in the world, sharing what the best practices are and how we're tackling these issues is just incredibly inspiring. I think brain health is something that affects everyone, and these are really challenging areas. I mean, I think in what makes the brain is perhaps the most complex organ in the body. We've made tremendous strides in research, but it's really hard. We can't take a biopsy of the brain. We can't do other techniques that have led to breakthroughs in other areas. But that doesn't mean that we can stop. It means we have to keep innovating. And the best way to innovate is to have as many stakeholders at the table as possible. It's to be able to share best practices across different groups, across disease areas, across countries, across regions. And so I think that that's why something like the UN General Assembly is so important. And as Josh was saying, to have brain health on the agenda means that we're really making some serious progress.
We would like to see a tremendous amount of progress in these diseases. And in a way, we already have. When Justin and I started Amylyx about 10 years ago, when we went to the ALS conferences, there was, only a couple of companies. Many of the conferences could easily fit in a very small, conference room. We've already seen in the last 5 years, many of these conferences becoming thousands of researchers, becoming more and more global with more and more involvement of research from other areas. So I think, right now we have this amazing opportunity to capitalize on that. People living with neurodegenerative diseases have no time. You take somebody living with ALS, in 2 years they go from fully functional to fully paralyzed and possibly even dying. And so that means that there's an incredible urgency to take action, to make a difference. So when we think about where we want to be in 5 years, I'd like to see many more treatments. I'd like to see many more, events bringing together different people. And I'd like to see, it becoming even more global than it already is. But I think events like what we have today, it was really a kickoff to that. This has not been how neuro has been in the past, and this is a real change.
Well, I think that we are making such strides in science and in treatments, in ways to diagnose, in biomarkers, and understanding the heterogeneity of these diseases. And with those advances, we're getting real treatments for people for the first time in areas of tremendous unmet need, like ALS, like Alzheimer's disease, like other critically unmet neurological diseases. But if we have those advances on the science side, on the therapeutic side, on the diagnostic side, but people can't get access to those, then almost what we're doing is for naught. And I think that's where policymakers are so critical. We need better funding for these areas. We need better recognition for these areas. We need access. We need reimbursement. We need aligned global priorities and regulations for these areas, because at the end of the day, all of the work that we're doing is trying to help people who really, really need our help. And that's why having an event like this at the UN General Assembly, where it's not just the scientists, it's not just the doctors, but it's the policymakers, it's the NGOs, it's the patient advocacy organizations, getting around to talk about best practices, and critically, how do we implement those as rapidly as possible? That's where we're going to make real progress.
So I think in addition, when we think about policymakers, the rate of innovation in these spaces is so fast that, it can be a challenge for policymakers to keep up and to be able to innovate at the same rate that the science is changing and that the technology is changing. So bringing everybody together is so important, to share that knowledge and to help policymakers make the best decisions and the best progress. As one example, just recently, we, together with many, many other groups, including physicians, NGOs, patient advocacy groups, policymakers, launched a group called the EU ALS Coalition. This is a group intended, work together to build a set of policy recommendations that they strongly believed could help across the EU, not just for treatments, but also for care for people living with ALS. And I think broadly, we as a pharmaceutical company, we believe that in some ways is an obligation. When you have a drug that gets approved and you're out there helping to treat patients living with a devastating disease, it becomes your obligation to dig in and to do even more, to try to assist in care, to try to assist in access. What we see in diseases like ALS is that every healthcare disparity that exists in the healthcare system is only magnified in diseases with movement disabilities and otherwise. So people in rural environments, people who might be not, from underrepresented groups, all face just magnified difficulties in these diseases. And I think, we, as well as many other stakeholders, can come together to try to address these issues.